Welcome to the Developing Life Podcast.
Today, we're asking the question, what if transformation arrives not only when something outside of us is broken, but when something deeper within us is breaking through? Today, we're sitting down with Tess Posner, artist, entrepreneur, and human-centered technology leader, to explore what it means to live inside profound personal and cultural change. Tess has spent her life at the intersection of creativity, systems, and social impact, helping shape the future of ethical AI, workforce innovation, and inclusive education. From building global initiatives that prepared tens of thousands for the future of work to founding organizations like AI for All and Sama School, Tess's leadership has always centered around one question: how do we stay human while the world rapidly shifts? But Tess is also an artist, and her music tells stories of resilience, healing, and feminine power, echoing the same clarity and emotional depth she brings to the systems level change. Today, with our host Heather Crank, Tess shares how art and technology don't have to live on opposite ends of the spectrum, and how becoming isn't a destination, but a way of moving through the world with curiosity, courage, and care.
Thank you, Devron. Welcome, Tess. I'm so thrilled to have you on the Developing Life podcast.
I'm super excited to be here. Thank you so much. And it's always great to see you.
Oh, thank you. For those people listening who don't know, I met you last year at the Artificiality Summit put on by Helen and Dave Edwards, and you gave an incredible presentation around music and AI. And I've just been waiting to be able to speak to you on this podcast about your experience and all the incredible things you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, that was a great conference. And I remember having really awesome conversations with you. And it feels like so long ago in the space of AI, even though it was only in October, right? It's like, wow, what a ride it's been since then.
It's just like everything is at hyperspeed. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yes, exactly. Hyperspeed is a good word.
So I want to back all the way up to your early beginnings. So you grew up in Boston. And
yeah, near Boston.
Near Boston. Okay. So when you were growing up, what were your influences?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so I grew up in two different places, like one south of Boston, right on the ocean, and then in Western Massachusetts, which was more rural area, beautiful, like, I don't know, green. I just remember all the green that was there. Now I live in California, so very different. But yeah, some of my influences, my dad would play classical music to me every morning going to school. And I used to call it like mysterious music because I was really, I don't know, I just was so captivated by especially classical music at that time. And then my parents were also involved in a spiritual meditation center. And so I also grew up going to kirtans and singing in choirs, like in more spiritual settings, both from like Western, because I'm also like Catholic and Jewish, and then also in this like Eastern meditation tradition. And so really seeing like, you know, the Western like choral tradition and also the Eastern kirtan and chanting and like people singing in ecstatic ways and people singing together as a community. And so that was really big for me. And then in high school, I got the opportunity to study classical guitar, which was amazing. I wasn't very good at it, to be honest. And I ended up more focusing on the piano in my early days, but I did get to go to Italy to study with this like classical guitar master. And that was a really profound experience. I'll never forget it because the way that he was able to just play one note was different than I'd ever seen anyone play a single note. And the kind of care and love that he put in that one note, like stood out to me as this way of having presence and like this depth, almost communion that he had with the music itself. So those were some of the things that shaped me musically. And then also, I don't know if you meant the question like just in general or musically, but I kind of took it in a musical direction.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense because my next question was exactly that about when you started singing around 11, 12 and how that whole transition happened. And that makes perfect sense, that combination of those two worlds colliding. And then, of course, someone who's devotional in their music. I love that. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go from music into you're studying music and you're traveling, and then you end up at St. John's College, which I find so fascinating. You studied the Great Books curriculum. Can you explain that for people who don't know what that is?
Yeah, so the Great Books curriculum is such an amazing tradition. It's basically this educational framework that St. John's College uses, but also has its roots like in Europe, I think, originally. But basically, you study the great books of Western civilization, starting from the ancient Greeks, and you focus on very much this liberal arts idea that it's not just one thing, but you study philosophy, literature, math, science, and music is kind of the core of it. And so we go back and we're like doing Euclid in mathematics, and we're reading Plato in ancient Greek, and we're studying all original sources, and all the classes are discussion based. And then throughout your 4 years, you make your way up to almost modern times. The curriculum kind of stops midway through the 20th century, but you basically get like the big arcs of Western thought in all these different disciplines and seeing how they relate to each other and building your muscle of like critical thinking and also the skills of like math and science and literature and philosophy. So yeah, very unique education and something that I think about a lot now because of where we are with AI and education and how unique and special that type of in-person discussion and kind of being able to wrestle with these. Like we had to do essays, but we had oral exams instead of written exams, which was kind of terrifying sometimes. Like you would show up in a room with like all of your professors and you'd have to just kind of share about your ideas and make arguments and like not defend in a way that was sort of defensive, but in a sense like you're defending a dissertation or something. Mm-hmm. And so that was a really unique way of getting grades as well.
Yeah, there's no faking that.
Definitely. Yeah, exactly. No faking it. And it was a good way to like build your mental toughness, I guess, and like a lot of the critical thinking and metacognition and all those types of communication skills and thinking skills that are really useful, even though there's not a lot of like practical, like direct application. It's not like you have a degree in this thing and you can go directly into that type of job, but it sort of prepares you for many, many different things.
Okay, so you're doing this amazing work, and it's kind of sounds like a theme through your life. The way that you kind of learn is very different and very multicultural and very unique. So walk me through how you go from St. John's to Columbia. And can you describe the degree you got there? Because I think a lot of people might not understand what it means and how you took your education and applied it to the next phase of your life of founding companies.
Yeah. So when I left St. John's, we were asking a lot of big questions like, what is morality? What is ethics? Like,
Wow.
How do you live a good life? Those are some of the conversations. So I guess my answer to that was to do something that creates positive social impact in the world. And I wanted to try to do that in the most effective way. I was very idealistic at the time, and I was like, I need to make the most scalable social impact that I possibly can. But I also wanted to really have like on the ground experience. So right after St. John's, I did AmeriCorps Vista, which is a 1-year program where you get placed with a nonprofit that works on anti-poverty solutions and causes. And you basically work in that nonprofit for a year and like really learn, also contribute, but learn about what it takes to do that type of work. So I, which followed very nicely on my St. John's education, as I worked with an organization in New York City that ran the New York City Urban Debate League, where we recruited young people who were at risk of dropping out of school because they weren't necessarily engaged or like being served by the school. And we would teach them debate, like this very intense practice of policy debate. And they would, you can imagine the type of skills you get with debate. It's like so many different things. You're like looking at these very kind of nuanced policy ideas. So you're doing research and then you're communicating. And a lot of these kids would go on to compete at like the state and national levels. And it would help like re-engage them in school and provide this like academic experience that would be really powerful and empowering. So that was an amazing experience. But I also decided that education reform seemed really difficult, just being embedded. We were working in like 30 schools in New York City. And I was meeting with people in educational policy, and it felt like, wow, this is something that is very, has a long horizon to make change. And that was frustrating to some of the people on the ground. So that's why I decided to go to Columbia, where it was out of the social work school, but we were focused on what we called at the time social enterprise, which basically means let's look for new innovative models for creating social impact, where it's more data driven. For example, it might be taking some ideas from the for-profit industry and really thinking about new business models as well for this type of impact work. And that to me was really powerful because, a lot of nonprofit type of social impact work can be underfunded, very, very, without the right resources, it's really hard to make an impact. And the people doing the work get extremely burned out. And I saw that even from my early internships and other work with AmeriCorps. So that's really why I was like, I want to go and study this and see like what models are possible and try to get involved in that side of it to enable the people doing the work to have more support and resources. And also thinking about forward looking models that might be breaking out of some of the patterns that make the work so hard to do and kind of hard to make changes with.
So eventually you end up founding AI for All. And I think that's where, did you get the White House spotted you or noticed you and engaged with you? I'd love to hear about your experience there. And I'm also so curious, you've got this singing component and this founder social work component. How do they kind of run separate tracks in your life, or do they kind of meet in the middle? It's so multifaceted. I'm very curious.
Thank you for that question. Yeah, so after, I went to Columbia and I ended up moving to California, I was working on some initiatives around economic empowerment and education. And I ended up getting connected with folks who are working out of the Obama White House, who are building something called Opportunity at Work, which was spinning out some of initiatives that came out of the White House directly and creating a nonprofit that sort of lasted. Because with administrations, it's like you can build something within the administration, and then after that's over, it has an uncertain future, right? Especially if, like in the case may be, a different political party took over. So you just don't know. So my boss, Byron Geist, is amazing, super inspirational. He founded Opportunity at Work. And so I was there to help transition this initiative from the White House and continue doing this work in communities, which was helping bridge the gap between open coding roles and Americans that wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity to actually create that opportunity. So then I actually met, so I was the founding CEO of the AI for All, but the actual founders who came before me were Dr. Fei Fei Li, Olga Ruskowski and Rick Summer, who had started a pilot out of Stanford University because Dr. Fei Li and Dr. Olga Ruskowski were running Stanford's AI lab and doing this work. And so I started to really see the opportunities in AI doing this work at a national level with the Obama administration. And so when I met Fei, Olga, and Rick, it was like just this perfect match of like what I was really passionate about and seeing they were incredibly inspirational, visionary AI researchers. So I was really taken by their vision for what really resonated with me, which was a human-centered future for AI that involves equity and bringing in more people into the conversation so that AI can serve everyone. So that's how that happened. And then, yeah, I can go into the music, but I'm happy to take it anywhere else you'd like.
Let's start with the human-centered AI topic, which is super important. And because you've been doing this kind of in the early advent of when AI was just starting to kind of get more traction in society, how do you think we're doing? And where would you like us to go? And then I'd love you to dive into the music part and kind of walk us through how you live your life in these two different areas.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting to see the trajectory of how this all went down, because when I first started leading AI for All, AI was not something on the average person's minds. And in fact, a lot of the work that we did was like to convince people, hey, this is going to be a big deal. And it's going to not just be a big deal for people in tech, but it's going to be a big deal for all of us. And so it matters who is building the technology, who's in the room, and making sure that we have an AI field that represents and mirrors who's actually going to be impacted. So fast forward almost, 9 years later, and I don't think any of us fully realized how it would unfold with ChatGPT's, coming out, and really these like large language models growing so quickly. And even at the beginning, like it was still fairly niche, I think, at first. And then the explosion, especially I feel like in the past year, bringing this more into public consciousness has been just incredibly fascinating to witness. And I think in many ways, unfortunately, the conversation is in a lot of ways the same that it was then, which is how does AI actually benefit all people versus just further concentrate wealth and power for some?
Yeah.
And so I think that to me is one of the questions of like, what does human-centered AI mean? Like, I think partially it's how AI is developed to benefit humans in the deployment, but also in how it's supposed to enhance our capabilities rather than replace our capabilities. And I think some of those same tensions are maybe even more alive today as we're seeing, this conversation about AI and work, for example, is so polarizing. And there's just these wild differences in what people are saying is going to happen, whether it's like, 30 to 50% of unemployment based on this. And then other people are saying, actually, no, AI is going to create more jobs than it destroys. But I think the reality is, as you and I have had conversations about, that it is already disrupting the way that we work, the way we do our jobs. And for me right now, it's very much like the Wild West. Like we're all, like the policies are not set. Governments, at least in the US, are not going to regulate this as quickly as the disruption actually happens. So in a lot of ways, we're kind of left to figure it out ourselves. And what that means is that it is sort of uncertain. Like, what does it mean that we're going to incorporate AI into our work? Is that going to replace employees? Is it going to be empowering? Is it going to augment skills? I think we all have an empowering choice there in how we deal with this in a more conscious and intentional way, and supporting each other and our communities through this. But we also need to be real with the fact that it is already disrupting, especially like the creative industries and certain jobs like software engineering that is going through tremendous shifts. And we have to be proactive in supporting people through that, which I think is not always happening across the board. So I'd say a lot of the same questions are here as they were almost a decade ago. But there's also more opportunity because the public consciousness around AI is higher than ever. And there's a growing concern about what this means and wanting to do it in a more thoughtful way. So I'm hopeful that we can create a movement there and make sure that AI is steered towards the benefit of all people. But I also think that people feel a little bit powerless and overwhelmed, which is something we have to deal with too. It's like that sense of, oh, this is too big for me and there's nothing that I can do, which is really easy to feel when you're just getting flooded with all this AI news and changes coming. So I think that's a really important issue, that there is agency, there is a sense that we can do something. But we also have to deal with the emotional aspects of that reality that feels really overwhelming and hard for people.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are very afraid to even use it or rejecting it completely. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think that the media narrative is very extreme. It's like either, we hear these words like doomer or accelerationist. And if those of you have seen maybe the AI doc that recently came out, it really paints this picture of like these two viewpoints that you either think we're all going to be retired because AI is going to take over our job and we can all read poetry and eat grapes and it'll be utopian paradise. Or, there's everything ranging from high unemployment, political instability to like existential risk. Like AI is going to wipe out all of humanity. And so I think the average person is just like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? Because it's so opposite and extreme. And there's also this sense of like, how can something that provides good, like a lot of people say, hey, I'm using this, it's pretty useful. I'm asking it things, I'm maybe having it help me with things, like maybe it'll cure cancer. Like there's this sense of, wow, there's potential here, but I feel really mixed about it for all the reasons we're talking about. And so I think that cognitive dissonance is really hard to sit with, and it becomes easier to go in one extreme or the other because it's easier to have something black and white than like, I don't know, this is a mixed bag and it's like ethically nuanced and I want to use it, but I also feel like against it. So that's a hard place for people to sit, which is why I think it's easier to go to the extremes. But unfortunately, we kind of need to sit in the middle because the truth is that AI is here and it's not going away. And so we have to not put our head in the sand and figure out, well, what are we going to do about that? And that's, I witnessed unbelievable amount of vitriolic hatred, like especially in the artist communities that I've seen. Like if you even bring it up, you might get death threats. Like people are so upset. And then on the other side, there's like, I'm in Silicon Valley area and it's like, everybody is so excited and building apps and like, so it's very intense right now.
So given the way that AI systems learn, and you've had experiences with this with your own music, how do you feel about that, the way it's reproducing and learning from what already exists?
Yeah, it's a great question and a great point. So these models are trained on existing art, music, etc., in order to, and the courts are really split about this because some people are arguing it's fair use to train the models on kind of what's out there in the public. And other people are saying, no, this is theft. Like you didn't ask people about this. There's no attribution and there's no compensation. And so right now we're seeing like, I think the kind of proliferation of some experiments with like ethically trained models that I think is really cool, because then we'll have consumers have more choice. Like, oh, this model was trained And guess what? They actually pay the artist like a certain percent or something to have used their music, and they get their permission. And so I think that that's exciting to see because it kind of gives us more optionality of what we can use and do. Because otherwise what's out there has been trained on. And I completely empathize with that argument 100%. Personally, I don't love the like music generation apps that are out there. I feel that in some ways, maybe it democratizes music creation and could be really fun and meaningful. But on the other hand, it sort of, to me, it lacks a bit of imagination about how people actually create music and how the tools can support the artist versus doing it for us and like generating it for us. So I have lots of ideas about that, but overall, I think the industry is going to continue to evolve because people ultimately are demanding this set of more ethical principles and more ethically trained models, and that will push things to evolve forward, which is good.
Yeah, there's kind of been a backlash where people are wanting to work by hand and collage and return to the human element, which I think is really important because it's one of those situations where once you lose something, you understand its value. So I'm curious what you think about this upcoming movement, or I guess actually it's here, of people wanting more human things while AI is integrating every facet of their working life.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that's beautiful that it just reminds me of that lyric. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? That's Joni Mitchell. Yeah, I think it will put a premium on human. What is human? And even like there's this crazy proliferation of AI music right now on streaming platforms. It's something like 35% of all new uploaded music. And I come across it too. Like all of a sudden I'll be like, what is this? You know? You do a little more digging and you're like, there's no one behind this. I've been doing like this artificiality talk that you saw me give. I've been doing talks like that since then. And it's been really interesting to see people's reaction when I do an experiment at the beginning where I play AI music and ask them to guess. And I want to do that because I think it grounds the conversation in like the reality that 97% of people can't tell the difference between AI and human generated music. I think the 3% are probably like sound engineers that can hear certain things in how, certain balance thing in the mix. And so anyway, those 3% are amazing, but most people can't tell. And so at the same time, there's like this resistance to that idea. It's like, oh no, I can tell. But when I've done these experiments, people really can't tell. And there's a way that it creates a lot of like unease and disturbance where they're like, what does this mean, about what is human and what we value and what we're able to, I don't know, like deal with in our social media environment. I think that definitely extends beyond music because now everyone's like, one of my favorite things to watch on Instagram is cute animals. And now I swear all the comments are like, is this AI? Is this AI? Is this AI? So there's this feeling that we are losing touch with reality. And even if it's not AI, it's like created this deeply unsettling question where it's like, is this even real? And how do we know what's real? And so I think that creates like an overwhelm in the system because you're like, well, like you said, let's just go back to crafting in person with collages and live music. And it's like, that's a beautiful thing, this resurgence of the analog in general that I think will continue for sure, especially as AI content proliferates online.
When you did that experiment at the Artificiality Summit, I couldn't tell. I was one of those people, I got it wrong. And then you gave us the quote of people thought their body would know, but you don't know. And it's just unnerving. So given where we're going and where we are, do you have a role that you want to play in this culturally? Like, where do you see yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I've definitely thought a lot about that because of where things are today, and it's different than when I first got into AI. And as an artist, I've thought about, because I spent a couple of years like out, so after I left AI for All, I was just in the music industry mainly. And that was a really great experience because I got to deeply go into the space and like work on my craft and learn production and do a lot of performing and just be more focused on that industry.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is like, how can I bring what I learned there back into the technology space? And so what I started to do, just kind of out of my own need for this, is to create these salons in my backyard that were bringing together artists and technologists and other community members, like community organizers and educators,
Mm-hmm.
to think through sort of philosophically, like bringing together my St. John's background where you sit and you have this philosophical discussion with people. And we were just talking about the implications of AI. Like, what does this mean? Can we have technology for human flourishing? What does it mean to bring AI into the creative process? And how do we do that in a way that doesn't replace human creativity? Mm-hmm. And these discussions were like about 15 to 20 people. We do like wider group discussion and then small group discussions. And then we do like music and poetry. And it just really resonated with people in this way, which is why I called it Resonance in the end. So now it's a new nonprofit that I'm starting around this. And basically, people said they're really hungry for this space where you are sense making around what is happening. You're doing that in a community with other people, and you're getting perspectives that you're not exposed to every day. So, one salon I had like a Zen master talking to a roboticist, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. And an artist talking to, a lawyer, whatever. And it's like that type of rich exchange creates so much insight and kind of sense that if we just work on this together as a community, as people, as humans, we can figure out how to, have agency and bring this whole moment into a space that we believe in. Like, we want to preserve what is human. We want to preserve the things that really matter in this moment. So yeah, we had a series of salons, and then we started to expand them into other communities. Now we're expanding them into rural areas. And so I'm really, really excited about kind of brings together these different pieces of the puzzle that I've been working on into this question of how do we have agency around AI and where it's going? And how do we preserve what we want to stay human?
So, super important question. Speaking of that question, you are getting ready to go to Greece for
yes,
for an incredible event. Can you talk about this upcoming event, your intent going there, and why it's so important?
Yeah, I'm really excited. So I've never been to Athens before, and this is for the World Beautiful Business Forum. For those of you that haven't heard of it, it's just this event that brings together technologists, philosophers, business people, a really interesting mix. And I actually went in 2018, I think, before the pandemic, when they had it in Lisbon, Portugal.
Wow.
So I really loved what they were doing then. And yeah, I think for me, it's always been somewhere that I want to go because of St. John's and studying ancient Greek, and just like, I don't know, it's almost like a pilgrimage for me to go to that site and just experience that place, so that's special. And then the actual presentation that I was tasked with, which is, it's very much like an artistic project. So what they asked me to do was basically do a presentation that explores how AI can or cannot be a creative collaborator or partner, and what does that look like. So I felt like, for me, I'm pretty hesitant to use AI in my musical creative process. Not because I'm against it, but because I just feel that the tools that exist right now, like, aren't actually very conducive to me retaining the elements of it that I want. So it began with this question, like, well, I don't really want to use AI, but if I did, what would that look like? And trying to innovate something that actually works for me. So it's been a really interesting process because I've just started playing with all these different things and testing out, like, how does that feel for me? And what does that actually do to my, like, I'm trying to be really honest about it and not come in with presuppositions. So that's what I'm going to be presenting the results of in Greece. And I'll be really interested to see the reaction and the conversation around that, because it's been surprising for me. And I'm very, like, in some ways difficult. Like, I've gone through like an existential despair moment with it. But I think where I came to in the end, I feel really strongly about, and I'm excited to share it.
Ooh. Oh, is it going to be recorded? Will people be able to see this?
I think it will be, but I'm not sure how and when they're going to share it. But I'll definitely do like a blog post about it or something. And I'm going to I wrote like an original song for the presentation, and I can definitely, hopefully, release that soon after.
Ooh, I would love to see that. Okay. So I have 2 questions here for you, and then we're going to open it up for a Q&A. What are you currently listening to?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh man, so many things am I listening to. So from a musical perspective, I've been listening to the new Florence and the Machine album, and then also the new Labyrinth album. Many people know his music from the show Euphoria on HBO, but I that's how I discovered him. But I'm just obsessed with his music. He just brings in synthesizers and kind of like soul and gospel influences, and it's like just incredible. So totally a big fan of him. And then Florence is definitely one of my inspirations.
I love Florence. Second question for you. Do you have a favorite thought leader at the moment? And if you do, why?
That's a good question. I'm actually a really big fan. So when I left AFROL, we hired a new CEO when I was there, and I'm still on the board of the organization. And I'm a huge fan of our new CEO. Her name's Bo, and she's been doing a lot of speaking and talking about AI. She comes from a diversity, equity, and inclusion background. And yeah, she just was part of this conversation in the New York Times about that field overall. And she's super smart, and I'm just loving like where she's taking this work and thinking about that. And then I also have to shout out Dr. Fei-Fei Li and Olga Reskovsky, who are both the AI researchers and leaders who I've been inspired by since then. Also, Maya Ackerman is an generative AI pioneer, and she just wrote this book called Creative Machines. And so she's coming from like the AI and music perspective, and we share a lot of the same ideas about it. So we've had some really great conversations, and she does like a lot of speaking and podcasts and stuff. So there's so many more, but I'll just end with those 4 amazing women who, I want to see more women leaders in AI. So I'm trying to mention those, and we definitely need more of those voices and stories that are highlighted.
Can't agree with that more. Please, more women in tech. Can you let people know? I know you have your blog on Resonance. I believe you're on Substack. Where can people find you if they want to follow you and your thinking and where you're going with your work?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. They can follow. So resonancesalon.com is where we will be posting our work with Resonance, the new nonprofit initiative I mentioned to build agency in the age of AI. If people want to follow, my writing, I do have a Substack called Resonance, and you can find that under my name, Tess Posner. And yeah, you can also follow AI for All. It's an amazing organization that is doing such important work with young people. So you can follow them at aiforall.org. And then, yeah, my music's just under Spotify and all platforms under Tess Posner.
Okay. It looks like we've got a question here for you, so I'm going to ask it.
Great.
With AI, it seems like a lot of us are clinging harder to beliefs around humanity's role in creativity and success. I would like to know if there are any beliefs about success or creativity that you had early on that you've completely outgrown. And if so, what concept replaced it?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. I love that question. Very deep. Yeah, I think when I was first getting started, even though I'd done music early on in life, it was something that I put away for many years because I was going into more of this social impact entrepreneurial space. And when I came back to it and started really seriously writing songs, I had a lot of fear about it. And it was terrifying because it was like, oh, wow, you're putting your own stories out there, your own voice and your own vulnerability. And, that's part of the artistic process. It's like one of my writing teachers told me, if you're not afraid of what you're writing, then you're probably not going deep enough. And so I love that advice. And I think for me, I was just like nervous that, it's not very common that you're in these different worlds. And so I was really scared to be like, oh, who am I? I'm like in this tech world, but I'm also in this music world. And so I think the belief that I had then to answer the question is like, I need to kind of not be in both worlds at once. Like I'm context switching. When I'm in the tech side of things, I'm just that, and I'm not bringing anything about music. And then when I'm in the music side, I'm not bringing up anything about my other work. And it's actually been this whole journey of like integration for me. So now when I find like even this conversation, right, we've talked about both, and it's been really healing for me because it's kind of this place of integration and self-love where I can say, I am all these things. It may not make sense, and it may not be a path that, is normal to go through, but I found the opposite of what I was afraid of, which is that most people have multiple sides to themselves. And so the more that I bring it up, it's like, oh, wow, okay, I also have this other side. Like, how do I bring that out or maybe integrate more? So I think I was really wrong about that to begin with, that I needed to like segregate these two parts of myself. And they actually so much inform each other, like in my work. And really being more open about that and sharing it with people has actually been one of the most powerful things that I think I've learned in the past decade or so. So that's something that's shifted in my belief, and I hope can inspire other people to, explore these parts of themselves that they're really passionate about and that feel so enlivening and have so much meaning, and knowing that that can feed everything else in your life as well.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. No shame in being a polymath.
Exactly.
If you had to strip everything back, no platform, no audience, no business, what would you still feel compelled to create and why?
I love that question. Oh man, I would definitely, writing songs on the piano is just the best. Like I just journal about stuff. I go outside into nature, and for me, it's very healing because the world that we're in right now it can be so overwhelming. Like you're just going through social media and you're like, oh my God, what is happening? Like we've never been so exposed to so much information, things happening, just fast and rapid change. Mm-hmm. So music is the way that I metabolize all of that. So it's like I would be doing it, and I will do it probably till the day that I die, because it's like it's a healing process for me, and it feels like it's able to alchemize pain, uncertainty, emotions that are bigger than me, or just like things that I'm seeing in the world into, I don't know, music is just magic. So it has that ability to alchemize what's hard or dark into something beautiful. So I'd be doing that.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. All right. So Tess, I think that we are just about up at the end of our conversation. I would like to give the guests who are present, if they'd like to turn on their camera and speak to you or ask any other questions, now is your time to do that. I'll just give them a second. And while they're deciding about that, I just would like to say your music is absolutely extraordinary. And I love the way that you're blending the two aspects and sides of yourself. I think that's really brave, because society kind of tells you niche down, do one thing, focus on one thing. And I think in this new era, bringing in all the different parts of ourselves is going to be super important. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. It really does. And I agree. Yeah, it's like time to focus on what is human, what is most beautiful and meaningful about ourselves and each other, and holding on to that and hopefully celebrating it in as many people as possible.
Okay. And I'm also being asked, do you have, beyond the Beautiful Business Summit, do you have any other upcoming events or experiences that we can support you with?
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yeah, I'm doing a couple of, let's see, what is it called? The Human Algorithm Summit is one place that I'm speaking next. And so I'm really excited to be there, which is in San Francisco, back in the Bay. And then I will definitely be doing more concerts and things like that. And, if you follow me, if you connect with me, I'd love to connect with all of you and just stay connected on this conversation. And I'll definitely be posting stuff on my website and social media.
Beautiful. That is perfect. Tess, thank you so much for joining us today on the Developing Life podcast. It is my absolute honor to have this time to speak with you. And if you're listening to this, please follow Tess. She has incredible music and incredible thinking going on across multiple platforms. So don't miss the opportunity to connect. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic week.
Thank you, Heather. It's so good to see you. Thank you for having me in this really great conversation. I appreciate you.
It's so nice to see you, Tess.